everyone, I'm here with my January 2016 wrap-up. In January I read 16 books, which is really good for me, particularly as I'm working full-time as well. But prior to that I'd been in a real reading slump. I tend to have a reading slump once a year and I don't know what it is. Just for some reason I just not motivated to read, but back to reading with a vengeance, and I did 12 in January. So the first book I finished in January was book 1 of his Dark Materials series, Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I've never read these books before. This is sort of like a series, a bit like the Harry Potter one, that kind of, I was too old and probably producing children at the time when they come out, so I was probably up to my eyes in nappies and didn't do much reading, so I've missed all of that fun and excitement. So I'm catching up now that I am 36, and this is such a pretty colour. I enjoyed this book. I did find it really intriguing, but I just found the pace of it quite slow. I was expecting a bit more from it. I do love, I think it's obviously the beginning of a trilogy. There's obviously a lot more to come. There was obviously a lot of scene setting and character building and things to come. So I think that's, you know, why it did feel quite slow. I haven't read the other two, but I have got them and I will continue with the series because obviously, you know, there's something in these books that everybody loves and I can see, you know, glimpses of it. I just haven't quite discovered it yet, but it was good, but not fantastic for me. Sorry. I had 2 audiobooks this month as well. The first one was Black Beauty, written by Anna Sewell, and that was narrated by Nathaniel Parker. I am a child of the 70s and I used to watch Black Beauty on the television and absolutely loved it, but I'd never read the book. The book is just lovely. It's just such a lovely, lovely story. Just so nice to listen to at night when you're settling down to sleep, and it's read beautiful by Nathaniel Parker. So yeah, it's just, yeah, you can see why it's a classic. The other audiobook that I had this month was Brooklyn by Colm Toibin, and that is read by Niamh Cusack, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The narration is fantastic. The story just sucks you in. The writing is beautiful. It's evocative. The story pulls at your heartstrings. I thoroughly recommend the audiobook. Niamh Cusack reads it brilliantly. I absolutely loved it. I've not seen the film yet, but I've heard that that's really good as well. And obviously, you know, I need to get to see that now that I've read the book, because I can, because that's the law. What I had on order is I pre-ordered all the Penguin 80 Little Black Classics, and I got quite a good price for them, so this year I'm going to try and read all of them. So this month I read the first 4, and I'm going to read them in order, so that makes sure that I read them all, and because there's such an eclectic mix of different types of books. The first one, book 1, is Mrs. Rosie and the Priest by Giovanni Boccaccio. I think this book is from something like the 14th century, and it's a right romp. It's quite saucy in places. It's funny, and it was surprising good. I think if you've ever read the Canterbury Tales and been surprised that in our sort of times where some things, you know, we've been educated were not done, you know, when you're brought up with some Victorian literature and things like that, the times before then, they just didn't care. So yeah, this is quite a saucy romp and I enjoyed it. I found it quite fun. So that was a good one. I recommend that one. The second one is by Gerard, Manley, Hopkins, and it's called As Kingfishers Catch Fire. And it's this is sort of like some nature poetry and nature notes, and to be honest it bored me rigid. I didn't think the poetry was all that good. It you know, it was just dull, really. It was like reading, yeah, a high school essay on what they saw in the garden, and nah, wasn't keen, sorry. The third one is the Saga of Gunnlaug, Serpent-Tongue. If anything, this is just like the best book title. It's an Icelandic saga. It was really good, actually. never read anything this ancient and, you know, this oral history, and it was really good. It was a good introduction to that kind of literature, incredibly readable, really interesting, and just sort of, I don't know, you feel like you're there. It's very evocative of you know, that Icelandic atmosphere. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. That was a good one. And then the fourth one that I've read is called On Murder Considered as One of the Fine Arts by Thomas de Quincey. Now, I had high hopes for this one because it's got murder in the title, and I do love a bit of grisly. And apparently Thomas de Quincey is from Manchester, so, you know, he's a northern author, but I lost the will to live. It's so dull. I tell you what, I've read more exciting policies at work than this one. Yeah, if you like reading dull essays, droning on, I recommend this for you. If you don't, oh my God, sorry, but I really did lose the will to live. I stuck with it to the end, but no, I wanted to pull my own eyeballs out by the end. Anyway, past the crappy old reads of this month, onto the good stuff. The non-fiction book that I read this month was, I don't know if you can see, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Doughty. Doughty has a fantastic YouTube channel called Ask a Mortician. I'll put a link to her down below. She's brilliant. She's fabulously gothic, and she talks about the taboo subject of death and dying. And she's actually a qualified mortician, and this is her memoir and stories of her time working as the person who burns the bodies in the crematorium, and it's absolutely fascinating. I picked it up because I thought I'll just read a section at a time, but being a middle-aged woman, I don't sleep brilliantly, and so it didn't take much for me to stay up all night reading it to finish it. I absolutely loved it. It's so interesting, it's so well written, it's so engaging. It will fascinate you, and I thoroughly recommend it, and I thoroughly recommend her YouTube channel as well. It sort of demystifies some of the mysteries around death, the sort of the tabooness of it, and it, you know, it brings it into that it is part of life. It's an everyday thing. We often shy away from the reality of it, but this is what it's like. This is what it really happens, and I actually found it quite comforting. I found it, you know, good to know really, and not at all something that I would rather not think about. I sort of feel like, yeah, that's okay, I can handle that. So yeah, I recommend it. The next one I read is The Martian by Andy Weir, with this kind of hot, rugged guy on the cover there. I don't know who he is, but he's a bit of alright. And I had this on my shelf for quite a while actually, but obviously as the films come out, I thought I need to get on with that and get it read. Wasn't sort of having any expectations of it at all, but I loved it. This is, yeah, my favourite read I think so far, maybe. That and Brooklyn of the month. I just fell in love with Mark Watney, the guy stranded on Mars. He was so... There's lots of sciencey stuff in, there's lots of maths, which, you know, for somebody like me who can't do maths, it didn't put me off at all because it all had a purpose and a reason, and it was all about survival. But it's so humorous, and the personality of Mark Watney while he's stranded on Mars comes through. He feels so real. You're rooting for him all the way along. I think, you know, about halfway through I kind of fell a little bit in love with him really. You know, I could quite easily just go, yeah, you are a sexy botanist, take me away. He was just, I loved him, and it's so tense and it's so exciting. And then I have since watched the film, and it's a really, really, really good adaptation of the book. Obviously the book is better, but as film adaptations go, I was quite thinking, well, how can they do it, because it's mostly just one person, you know, throughout the whole film, but they did a really good job of it. So I recommend the book and the film, top. The next one I read this month, people will probably groan when they see this, was Fangirl. This is probably like, you know, everybody's read it so long ago. And as you know, with Northern Lights and Harry Potter, I'm very late to the party, but I have actually read it and now I get it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's very linked to the Harry Potter fangirl thing, which obviously I missed out on, but I do understand because, you know, with me it was Duran, so I totally understand the fangirl thing. They meet, there's a misunderstanding, there's love, there's not love, you know, perfect, just happy, lovely, fun, crazy, yeah. Recommend it. I raced through it, it's fab. So yeah, and I've got Carry On, which is the spin-off of it, which is the actual fan fiction that the fangirl writes with the book. So yeah, good book, enjoyed it. Glad that I've really joined the party at last. And another one that, well, probably all these books I read is just like, really, for the love of God, have you only just read them? Was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I really enjoyed this book. I thought I would love it to death. I didn't love it to death, but I really enjoyed it. I've had a bit of a sci-fi month this month with The Martian and this one. I really like the premise of it. I really like the whole thing that, you know, people now live in the virtual world rather than the real world because the virtual world's just so much better than the reality. I liked the 1980s references because I kind of, you know, was around in the 1980s, so they mean a lot to me. I liked the fun of it, I liked the characters, I liked the goodies, I liked the baddies, I liked, you know, that whole will they, won't they, oh, you're rooting for people. It was fun, a good read, recommend it, and I don't know if they're going to make a film of it, but I think it would make an excellent film. And the final book that I read in January is the third one in the Luna series, and that's Cress by Marissa and Meyer. I started reading it, was really enjoying it, and then I just got so bored halfway through. I think it's obviously a middle of the series book. So bored, read loads of other things, and then came back to it, and then just got straight back into it. So once I'd had a break, I was quite happy to get back into it. It's quite a big book. But this is sort of like based around Rapunzel and the further adventures. Don't want to give too much away, but it's the third one in the Lunar Chronicles series. And again, enjoyable. By the time I'd finished it, you know, the overall was, I actually really enjoyed the book. So yeah, and I've now got just the final one of the series, that's Winter, to read on my shelves. Don't know when I'll get to that, but I will get to it. So that was it. That was the 12 books I read in January. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, please. I really would love you to subscribe. And let's, you know, join in the fun and the bookish conversation. And I'll see you all soon. Bye.